Hello, my name is Kriostex and welcome to Styxperience, a show where I have experienced a game and then I talk about it. And do I have some things to say about Sherlock Holmes and the Devil's Daughter? This game has a surprising amount of problems, and it's actually pretty fitting to start with this set of sequences where you have these sort of a lot of slow physical puzzles instead of point and clicky thinking puzzles, and followed with some pretty misguided and weird quick time event action sequences like balancing the board here, or later on you'll be like forging a dagger while essentially playing Guitar Hero with your controller, and there's like eavesdropping scenes later on, there's bar fights, there's sneaking scenes even in the game, and oh well, we'll get to those. But first, let's start with what is my history with this franchise, and what was I sort of expecting here. So, I have played every single Sherlock Holmes game starting from The Mystery of the Mummy, so that's like how many games is that already? It's like 8 or 9 or something like that, including like the minigame collection of the Persian carpet or whatever that's worth. So I was sort of thinking that this would be a step forward with the franchise, going forward from the last one, Crimes and Punishments, which was, it still had some of the like vintage Sherlock Holmes game jank in it, but it was still, as a whole, while sort of overlooking a couple of weird moments that didn't belong, it was overall, you could say it was a good game. So finally we had reached that point. And then this game happens next. And this takes a lot of steps from the last game, and they are all in the wrong direction. Every single one. So, well, first off, the loading screens are pretty long. That's the same as last time, yeah, but you'll be, once again, spending a lot of times in these carriages doing the loading screens. It hasn't at least improved, let's say that much. The game engine really is a little heavy here. And also the look of Sherlock and also Dr. Watson is once again, for some odd reason, changed, and they look younger even though they're supposed to be older than before, because the sort of quote-unquote adopted daughter of Sherlock is involved, and there's a whole thing with that. So, as you saw here, the game is now riddled with QTEs and they've been in these games in some form before, but nothing like this. Now they are everywhere. Instead of like being an actual point and click exploration experience, roughly half of the game is these weird and misguided and clunky and horrendously terrible QTE moments that just are these balancing moments and bar fights and even exorcisms, and it's just ass. And also very early on, there's this sort of stealth section where you control Wiggins, the street urchin Holmes usually hires to do his bidding, and then you need to shadow someone like it's a super terrible sequence from the Assassin's Creed games in my Sherlock Holmes game. And during that, you go to do a chimney cleaning QuickTime event minigame moment because apparently they felt like ruining the game slightly even more. Like they just felt like they hadn't done enough damage already. It's so bad. It's baffling, really. The deduction screen is still here, and it works in the same way, but it has the same weakness as in the last game, Crimes and Punishments, because even at the very end, through baffling coincidences, everyone or at least two people, seem clearly guilty, and it's almost just guesswork, or, to be honest, jumping to conclusions, which of them is actually the correct choice. That problem is still here, still annoying, and it's even worse, because in some cases the game goes to insane extent to clearly incriminate at least two suspects. I'm not gonna spoil who the actual correct choice is, but in one case that involves a murder that happens with a thrown spear that either is or has been framed to be thrown by a Mayan statue. One suspect has an acquaintance who holds by his physical abilities the skills to be the killer, and the other suspect just so happens to have built a fully working spear-throwing automaton from a statue that looks exactly identical to the statue in question in 1890 something. Yeah, storytelling. Fuck. I mean, that's just... ugh. And the deduction screen still also has a logic of its own. Sometimes the bleeding obvious is the correct choice, but in the next point, the correct answer involves some very heavy assumptions that really... you can't really get a feel for what the game wants from you, because sometimes the answer is simple and basic, and sometimes just you need to assume a whole bunch, and in other cases assumption is the wrong option. So, it's just maddening sometimes. It's bad. It's no good. No good. And actually, also in this game, the character portraits actually return as well, meaning the sequences where you look at a character or the very immediate surroundings of the character in slow motion close up, and you just make these observations of here's an example. It's a book and a Bible, but in here you need to sometimes make choices, which is the correct choice. In here, it's like a shepherd or a religious image. It feels like a safe bet to be a religious image, because there was a Bible before and all that. And that is indeed the correct choice here. And it's simple and easy, and it creates a portrait of the character with some info on it, but it's sometimes not quite so simple. I've ran so many times in this game into situations where the choice with which is the correct sort of assumption to make about the character is just hard and just guesswork. And if you get it wrong, you cannot fix your mistake. Your character portrait is fucked for the entirety of the game, and that can lock you out of crucial clues or evidence, which can then in turn affect your ability to solve the case. As an example, earlier on there's a woman who has sort of a necklace with some sort of triangles and stars and such in it, which looks like it could be an occult symbol, sure, and that's one of the options. The other option is eccentric jewelry. So why could it just somehow not be both or either one of them? Because, I mean, think about it. A person could wear occult symbol jewelry as an eccentric choice, right? So I'm thinking it's a jumping to conclusion to think it's absolutely an occult symbol and such, right? And also, there's the same character has some scars on her wrist, and they are across the wrist, not along the length of the arm, but across it. So along the length would, to me, be the actual suicide attempt, right? Whereas across is either some sort of angst or an unfortunate accident. The choices there are suicide attempt or unfortunate accident. Just seeing scars there that go across the thing seems to me that assuming it's a suicide attempt is jumping to conclusions. The correct choices are occult symbol and the suicide attempt. So fuck. And that's the thing you see all throughout this game. And I really, really hate that. It's so annoying. So, beyond that, there's sort of the cases only very, very vaguely tie to the overall plot, and the overall plot is it involves the girl from the end of Testament of Sherlock Holmes. No spoilers, but it's ludicrous and has no place in any game that is trying to tell an actual grounded story. And during some of the cases, you sort of imagine a place in Sherlock's mind, you enter the mind like it's the fucking Matrix, and you go in there, do some terrible Mayan temple sequences and die over and over and over again, and it's so bad. Why do we need to go into someone's mind? What is good? There's still point-and-click elements in here that are fun and interesting, and the world once again looks interesting and intriguing to study and look at. What the game would have needed to be good is just remove all QTEs, every last one of them, the eavesdropping, the bar fights you saw earlier, the balancing acts, the exorcism, all of that. The puzzle minigames are fine, they are fun, but all the action QTE moments should be removed. This is supposed to be a puzzle exploration deduction game, not an action or stealth game. None of that is needed or wanted in a Sherlock Holmes game. Have the ability to fix mistakes in character portraits would also be really, really nice, and have the case be slightly more focused in the end. Have the challenge be in proving the guilty party, not in trying to guess who of the two clearly guilty parties is actually guilty. Overall, much of the good in the last game is sort of present here, but it has been buried under loads and loads of terrible, horrible, horrendous, misguided new steps for the franchise, and the QTE action scenes are the sort of thing that really, really shows that. They destroy this game, they really do. Those and the stealth sections, everything that is a step away from being about exploration, about puzzles, about these deductions and dialogues and such. It actually truly pains me to say this, but even for a fan of the series, I would tell you to avoid this game and just hope that they revert back to Crimes and Punishments for the next one and just skip this. And it's a really sad thing, but that's what it is. So, I hope this was helpful or entertaining to you, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.